president that oversees the collapse of the auto industry in the U.S.
Well, I obviously have made a decision to make sure the economy doesn't collapse. I've abandoned free market principles to save the free market system.
And what they have said is, sure, we want to capture the entrepreneurial spirit, but we want a strong social safety net that protects the middle class and working people.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong.
We know that the free market is nonsense. We know that the whole point is to game the system.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
In America, what content they should have on the radio station?
Well, I think we should all try to be fair and balanced, don't you?
Look, this is commercial enterprise, not run by the government. It's not public money, and I do believe in fair and balance.
Yeah, good. Well, you know, the radio air, it's not that this is like printing a broadside.
Yeah, that's a distinction, and using the federal government to essentially target folks, and that's certainly not what anybody thinks that the Obama administration is doing. But
Will you rule out reimposing the fairness doctrine?
I'm going to leave that issue to Julius Jankowski, our new head of the FCC, and the president to discuss. So I
think the danger here is this, kind of slippery slope argument, and also that are you kind of sullying the image of the White House by taking on Glenn Beck, who, I don't know how many viewers he gets, but I guess the larger question is how many people actually believe what he's saying. And
we cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
If their government is making an historic shift, jettisoning the free market capitalism in favor of centralized government economic planning. I wonder, Mr. Secretary, if you would comment on that.
I do not believe that concern is justified. I understand why people would be worried about this. But what we're doing is using authority that Congress gave us, authority that was designed to help protect the American economy from these kind of failures.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Secretary, what provision in the Constitution could you point to give authority for the actions that have been taken by the Treasury since March of '08?
Oh, well, the Congress legislated in the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act a range of very important new authorities.
Sir, in the Constitution, what in the Constitution could you point to give authority to the Treasury for the extraordinary actions that have been taken?
Every action that the Treasury and the Fed and the FDIC is been using authority granted by this body, the Congress.
And in the Constitution, what could you point to?
Under the laws of the land, of course.
And if I could move to the Federal Reserve Chair, if you could point to what provision in the Constitution would give authority to the Federal Reserve. This has been over $10 trillion that we're talking about.
I don't know where $10 trillion comes from. The Congress has the right to authorize funds, which is what they did in the TARP program. And they have given us, in the 1930s, they gave the Federal Reserve the power for emergency lending as a means of addressing financial crises, which is what we've done.
And to the Federal Reserve Chair, do you believe there are any limits on the authority that the Federal Reserve has taken since last March of '08?
The loans we...
Correct that misconception and make a clear statement now that derivatives that are sold today are not going to be the subject of bailouts for either the issuer or the purchaser, that capitalism is back.
They're in a state of shock. They're not able to protect their interests. They become childlike and regressed. The interrogation manuals are really obsessed with this idea of regression. So I started to think about how that had been applied on a mass scale.
The contraception will reduce cost to the state and to the federal
So
government.
no apologies for that?
No apologies, no.
It's the same old story, same old song and dance, my friend. It's the same.
Is that the individual right to bear arms reflects the success of an extremely aggressive and resourceful social movement.
We kind of agree with Mao that political power comes largely from the barrel of a gun.